Prayer in the field of silence, when the mind learns to rewire. In the soft hush before thought begins to rise, there is a sacred stillness, a threshold between the known and the possible. It is not silence as absence, but silence as potential. In this hush, the clamor of the world fades, and the internal theater becomes visible. It is here, in this fertile pause, that the hidden codes of belief begin to loosen, unthreading themselves from the architecture of the self. The mind, so often caught in the static of the world, begins its descent. No longer tethered to the incessant noise of problem-solving and identity maintenance, it enters the current of inner space. The waves that once beat fast and frantic at the shores of thought now begin to slow. From the high crest of beta, where everything is divided and urgent, the frequency softens into alpha, a gentle rhythm of possibility, where the gate to the subconscious swings open. In beta, the world was all form. The body, the clock, the unfinished conversations, the names of things and their positions in space, these ruled awareness. It was a realm of survival, of doing, of logic pressed against the walls of the skull. The analytical mind guarded the subconscious like a gatekeeper, allowing no new scripts to pass. It clung to the known, to the familiar pain, to the belief that if something hurt before, it would always hurt again. Here, prayers often bounced off walls, unanswered not for lack of devotion, but for being spoken in the language of resistance. But now, as breath deepens and attention turns inward, the landscape changes. The alpha waves rise like dawn mist over a quiet field. In this state, the world becomes less solid and the inner dimension more vivid. The roles once worn like armor begin to dissolve. The voice that narrates, explains, and judges becomes quiet. And in its silence, a different knowing begins to pulse, one that does not speak in words but in sensations, impressions, and a subtle pull toward wholeness. To enter this space is to begin the journey of unlearning. The theta waves arrive like a dream tide, rolling in gently but with profound depth. Here there is no effort, no pushing or forcing. Only a soft receptivity, like a field drinking in rain. The veil between conscious and subconscious thins. Here lies the ground of reprogramming, the holy soil where new beliefs can be planted. Not through argument or analysis, but through suggestion, vision, and feeling. In theta, the mind becomes like clay, malleable, responsive. It no longer resists, it rehearses. It begins to imagine a life where the old patterns no longer hold sway. Where fear no longer guides decisions. Where the body no longer wears the clothes of trauma. Where love is not an idea but an experience, etched into the nervous system as truth. It is here that we begin to speak not to the surface of ourselves, but to the roots. The subconscious listens not to declarations made in stress, but to the soft invocations spoken in peace. So we do not command, we invite. We do not demand, we rehearse. We do not fight the old, we generate the new. We do this not once, but over and over, until the new path becomes more familiar than the old trail of pain. Until the nervous system begins to expect joy. Until the body trusts stillness. Until the identity reorganizes around possibility instead of protection. To rewire is to return. It is not about adding new layers but peeling away what was never truly ours. The beliefs inherited, the stories absorbed, the fears rehearsed for years, they begin to fade in the presence of repeated coherence. The practice becomes the offering. Each breath becomes a vote for presence. Each meditation, a gesture of willingness. Each elevated emotion, a signal broadcast into the field, asking not for something to happen, but declaring what is already happening within. The heart, once closed for safety, begins to open in gratitude. Not because life has changed, but because perception has. The shift from fear to gratitude is not a cosmetic one. It is biological. It changes chemistry. It informs cells. It tells the body, we are safe now. And in that safety, the subconscious can release its grip on the old programs. It no longer has to keep replaying survival. It can begin to embody creation. This is not magic. It is alignment. It is the science of surrender. The power of brainwave regulation is not about control. It is about coherence. When the mind slows and the heart opens and the breath deepens, a resonance is created, a harmonic field in which change becomes not only possible but inevitable. In that space, we meet the subconscious not as something to conquer, but as something to harmonize with. We stop yelling at the operating system and instead we sing to it, softly, repetitively, until it begins to dance to a new rhythm. This is the sacred rehearsal of transformation. Again and again we return to the inner temple, not to fix ourselves but to remember. To remember that the beliefs we hold are not who we are. That the pain we inherited is not our identity. That the patterns we repeat are not our destiny. We come back to silence not to escape the world, but to re-enter it as someone who is no longer defined by the past. The deeper the silence, the clearer the script becomes. So we sit, we breathe, we feel. And in that feeling we choose. We choose thoughts that uplift even if they feel unfamiliar. We choose emotions that heal even if they feel distant. We choose images of a future that is not yet visible but deeply felt. And in doing so, we change not only the wiring of our brain, but the very story we tell the quantum field. We cease to be reactors and become creators. We are no longer trapped in the loop of memory, we are writing new codes in real time. This is the alchemy of brainwave regulation. From beta to alpha to theta we descend, not downward but inward. Each layer bringing us closer to the source, where belief and biology are not separate but one. Where the inner world is no longer a reflection of the outer, but the origin of it. In this space, healing is not something to be earned but something to be remembered. And belief is not something to be proven but chosen. The transformation is not instant. It is not loud. It does not come with applause. It arrives in silence, in repetition, in the slow turning of the inner tide. It builds itself through trust, through presence, through practice, until the beliefs that once held us back no longer feel like home, and the ones we have chosen begin to bloom like truth in the body. So breathe deeply, feel fully, rehearse with care, choose with presence, and become the version of yourself you are meant to be.